Hi, everyone, and welcome to this presentation about networking, hosted by your college career mentor team in Wellesley Career Education. Today, we're going to talk about networking broadly, what is a network, why does it matter? We'll touch on the nitty-gritty of how to do it as well, but that's almost the easy part. And we have lots of resources, including your career community advisors and your CCM, your college career mentor, to help you through it. I want today to really get us on the same page about what networking actually means and why it's worthwhile and even enjoyable for you to do. So, what is networking? What do you think it means? Networking is building a community of people who think about ways to support one another's growth, success, and well-being. It's an everyday activity that happens all the time. It is learning from and sharing knowledge with others. You know, networking is really just a normal human activity. It's about building relationships and connections to other people. For some reason, when we talk about doing this in a professional context, it's been given this new name, right? Networking, like with a capital N. It makes it feel intimidating. It makes it sound really goal-oriented and transactional. But that is not a helpful way to think of networking. Just think of it as getting to know people who can teach you something across all areas of your life, and then maintaining and building upon those relationships over time. Now, what is not networking? Here's a couple of examples. First is telling everyone you know you're looking for a job, right? Just spreading the word. That's not a bad thing to do. That's fine. It might be part of your job search process, but it's not networking. Similarly, asking people for names of those who work in the places where you want to work. That's not networking. It's a little bit of research, but it's not really networking, and nor is approaching strangers to ask for jobs. One mistake that students or many people make when thinking about networking is that it should be an immediate action and result. You have a conversation with someone and they offer you a job in turn. But networking is not usually immediate and transactional like that. Instead, I often think of networking like the way we would grow and care for a tree, right? I know this is a little bit cheesy, but bear with me. You invest time and energy into nourishing it over a long period, having faith that if you do so, eventually it will bear fruit. When you're lovingly growing that little tree, you don't expect that every time you water it, it's going to give you an apple just because you watered it, right? Likewise, we invest time and energy in building our relationships and our professional network. We don't expect it will offer us a job every time we tap into it, but we do have faith that all of our conversations, outreach, effort, and time will provide something fruitful for you in the long term. So these examples that you see in front of you of transactional activities that people often associate with networking are not actually true networking at all. These are just one-time interactions that won't have much potential to develop and grow into something really valuable for you. So, how can a network help me? There are four main ways that networking and your network can help you. These are providing advice, providing information, connecting you to other people, and connecting you to opportunities. Remember that real networking is mostly about asking questions, and the goal is simply to learn something. For example, you may know that you want to be a human rights lawyer, but you have no idea how to get there. It might feel like this big mystery that you need to unravel step by step. But always remember, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can use your network to learn about this. People out there are already doing the thing that you want to do, so talk to them and learn from them. This is what true networking is all about. Ask them what has been helpful, what hasn't. What did they wish they knew earlier or had done differently? Sharing these experiences, letting others learn from our mistakes, this is how we all can give each other a boost. It's why we have these networks of people who want to support us and who we want to support as well. I've included this little quote at the bottom. You see it's attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt. Learn from the mistakes of others. You can't live long enough to make them all yourself, right? Likewise, you don't have time to try out every industry or internship that's out there. You can only do a couple of them in the time that you have, but then your network can help you to expand that bandwidth. You can connect to people who have done some of those other things that you didn't have time for, like a particular summer internship, for example, and then learn about it from them. In both of these examples, exploring career options or learning how to get to a particular goal, note that you're not asking anyone for a job, but you're learning more about what your path to a job might look like. And having that information that your network can provide gives you a little leg up. I mean, if they offer you a job in the course of that interaction, great. But that's not the primary or the only goal of networking conversations. It's really about getting this advice and information that will help you to keep moving forward a little bit more easily. Now, do I already have a network? Yes. Your network is all of the people who can help you think through your life decisions, all of the people whose experiences and knowledge help to guide you and support you. This includes lots of people you already know, right? Your extended family, your friends, former classmates, people in your orgs or on your sports teams, other members of community organizations you belong to, like maybe a church, as well as the coaches or mentors you may have had along the way. We all already have these types of connections, and these are the foundation of your personal and professional network. So you've already been doing this without even realizing it. The only place that professional networking feels different or possibly more challenging is that it might require reaching out to build these relationships intentionally with people that you don't know yet, right? In the case of your personal network, like your family and friends and classmates, you've built those relationships probably through proximity, just being around those people for a period of time. Some of your professional network will come from proximity as well, colleagues, supervisors, but some of it will not. Some of it you will build intentionally by reaching out to the people you'd like to know and from whom you have something to learn. The act of reaching out to a stranger is what can feel so hard about this process, I know, and we will come back to that. So you already have a network. How do you know who's in your network? Now, some parts of your network you already know. You can probably name lots of people in your network right now, the ones we just talked about on the previous slide, friends, coaches, teammates. These are your first degree connections or your direct connections. These are the people you already know personally. Now, many people feel frustrated when they try to think about their network because they think they don't know a lot of people, or maybe they don't know anyone doing the kind of work that they want to learn about. But the thing you have to know is that your network is actually much, much bigger than just those first degree connections that you can list. It also includes your second degree connections. These are the friend of a friend kind of people that you might not know directly at all. They're still in your network. So look at the little image here. The person in the center, in the pink, knows 4 direct connections. That's the only part of their network that they know personally. But see that their network expands beyond that in every direction. So the person in pink here may not actually know a person over here in purple or the person way over here in yellow, but they are actually connected to them through one of their friends. So your network already is exponentially bigger than you might think it is. Figuring out who that includes can be hard. So LinkedIn is really helpful for knowing who is in your network beyond those first degree connections. I don't want to give a product endorsement here, of course, but LinkedIn really is the best way to visualize your network and make it feel more concrete. In addition to allowing you to see all of those direct connections in one place, LinkedIn has done a good job of showing you those people's connections as well, really making that broader network that you might not even know is there into something visible, searchable, and accessible. Otherwise, speaking about a network in the abstract can feel really vague and difficult to act on, right? I say, your old high school basketball coach may have some interesting connections somewhere, but what are you supposed to do with that information? How do you know who those second degree connections may be or what they're doing? LinkedIn lets you figure that out. So if you haven't already, Create a LinkedIn profile. We have resources on our website to help you with that, and your college career mentor will also be happy to talk you through the process or provide you with feedback on your profile. I'd like to walk you through an example here of why these second-degree connections matter. Okay, so here's you. Maybe you are directly connected to your former piano teacher, but maybe your former piano teacher knows someone they went to college with who now works at the United Nations. So you are now indirectly connected to that person. They are your second-degree connection through your former piano teacher. And maybe you want to work at the UN someday. You wouldn't normally even think to ask your former piano teacher from high school whether they have any connections at the UN, right? Why would that even occur to you? But LinkedIn makes those second-degree connections visible. So suddenly, if you search for the UN on LinkedIn, you'll see that you have a second-degree connection who works there. And you can then contact your piano instructor, whom you know well, to ask for an introduction. Does that make sense? So being able to know who's in your network, including all of those second-degree connections that might be hard to know are even there, is really, really helpful. LinkedIn is the easiest way I know of to actually be able to see all of those people. In addition, of course, everyone who has ever graduated from Wellesley College is also part of your network. If we include current students, faculty, and staff, this is tens of thousands of people. And I really can't overstate the importance and value and the pleasure of this network. You can find these alums on LinkedIn, of course, but we also have our own platform for making those connections, the Hive. Over 7,000 people have active profiles on the Hive. So this is a great resource for students looking to connect with alums to learn about career paths, graduate school, or just general life advice. And it's important and helpful for you to know that all of the alums who have a profile in the Hive, they made that profile because they want students to reach out to them. So the only people who are there are the ones who have opted in because they want to communicate with current students. So you can feel really comfortable reaching out, that you're likely to get a really positive response. So the Hive is a great place to get started practicing networking, sort of with training wheels. You still have to reach out to strangers, but they are strangers who are happy to talk to you, have literally signed up for students to talk to them, and who have a vested interest in your success. So if you have 5 or 6 conversations with alums that you find on the Hive, you'll get so much more comfortable and confident with how those types of conversations usually go, along with meeting some interesting new people, gaining some great advice and information. And then with that practice under your belt, you may find it easier to then reach out to other people on LinkedIn, at a career fair, or working in companies that interest you. The Hive platform is really user-friendly, and your college career mentor will be more than happy to give you a demo. You can also find some introductory materials about the Hive on our career education website, or you can go to hive.wellesley.edu to try it out for yourself. So, how can I network with people I don't know? Let's walk this through step by step. How do people actually do this? One of the best ways to do this is through informational interviewing, which is just a fancy way of saying having informative conversations with new people. You'll start with your low-hanging fruit, alums in the Hive. You can search the Hive to find people whose career paths are interesting to you, or maybe who did the same org as you or had the same major. When choosing people to reach out to, don't be too picky. You don't want to have a network that is too narrowly focused on only one thing. Then you don't have as much support if you try to pivot careers and your network becomes like a closed circuit, right? Everyone has the same kind of a job. You want to have a diverse group of people who themselves are connected to different networks and who have different experiences and skills to share with you. So keep an open mind. You can learn something from anyone. Remember that earlier example of the piano teacher. You never know who is going to be connected to who or what wisdom or practical tips anyone might have to offer. So start out broad. You reach out to someone who interests you to request a conversation. Okay, this is really easy, and the Hive makes it very easy for you because it has a little wizard. It even suggests the kinds of language that you can use to send someone an initial message. You set up a time to speak just for maybe a 20-minute chat. When you have an informational interview, you can ask any questions that you want, have maybe 2, 3, or 4 questions prepared. And then you may also want to ask that person to recommend someone else for you to talk to. Each time you talk to someone, you can ask them to make that recommendation, right? Who else might I want to speak to? Do you know anyone else who might have some good advice for me? So as I said, you'll prepare those 3 to 4 questions, including who else do you think I should speak to? Now, after you have that conversation, you'll connect with that person on LinkedIn, where you can then view their connections, who are now your second degree connections. Those second degree connections are now part of your broader network, and you can reach out to them with the same informational interviewing request. And then repeat. And this is how you can reach out, make an initial contact, start to build a relationship or learn something from someone that you didn't know just at the outset of this process. And it builds upon itself. The more people you talk with and get to know, the more people you will be exposed to, and your network starts to build really effectively over time. Whoops. Now, when should I start to network? Remember that a network, or your community of contacts and supporters, isn't something that will necessarily benefit you right away. It takes time to grow and expand, to include more people, and for you to even figure out what you really want to learn from it. So get started now by creating the foundation of your network and identifying some people you want to learn something from. And then invest time into cultivating those relationships and building upon them to connect to new people. The sooner you're able to get started on doing this, the more your network will be able to compound and grow on its own over time so that it can be there when you really need it. And then it will be able to serve you in a number of ways. First, enjoyment. Part of the pleasure is just meeting and knowing new people. That makes networking its own reward. Information, as I said earlier, don't reinvent the wheel. You can ask about skills, internships, career paths, grad degrees, and more in those conversations that you have. Gaining advice, learning from others' mistakes. When you request an informational interview, you can ask really open-ended questions like, what do you wish you had known when you were a junior at Wellesley? What do you wish you had done differently? Looking back, what's an internship or an experience or a project, something you wish you had done that you didn't? What do you think I should do? You can really learn a lot from others' reflections and advice in those conversations. Another way that all this work you put into your networking pays off is advancement, of course. This is what people usually think of with networking. Your network may connect you to a job, help to pass along a resume, introduce you to a key person, and much more. Often you cannot predict the ways in which your network will pay off. Remember that this is just the accumulation of your social connections. They will support you in many ways throughout your life. I personally have used connections on LinkedIn to inquire about different towns to live in or to learn about the graduate programs they've attended. And the Wellesley Alum Network has advised me on everything from resumes and salary negotiation to gardening and parenting. Now, a totally unexpected benefit of my own network is that I get to use it to connect to my students, and I love doing that. I never would have thought I would employ my network in that way in my work. So often you just can't predict how or when this network, all of these relationships will be helpful, or when you'll be able to use it to help someone else. But just invest the time and effort up front, enjoy the process, and have faith that this will be a positive and a valuable part of your professional journey. So, next steps, pat yourself on the back. First, You already have a lot on your shoulders right now and are dealing with lots of new experiences and information. Be proud of yourself for all that you've done so far and all that you will do. When you're ready to get started on networking, first create your profile in the Wellesley Hive. You can reach out to your college career mentor if you want to work through that with someone, and we'll be happy to help. Likewise, create your LinkedIn profile and add the first degree connections, your direct connections that you know of. Again, reach out to your CCM if you want help with that process. Once you have your profile set up, consider scheduling informational interviews to learn from and build that network. And at any time, meet with your college career mentor to discuss your networking strategy. We will always be so happy to help and are always here and available for you. And here are some quick links to some of the resources that we've talked about in this presentation. You can find all of this information about the Hive, informational interviewing, networking, and using social media for networking, all available on our website. And so just do a little search on the career education page for those to turn up, or reach out to your mentor or any of our advising team for help at any time.